public and the press. As you all know my name is Bonita E. Zellman, and I represent 7 students who were brutalized and victimized when they tried to go forward on October 17, 2010 and perform CPR to try and save the life of Dan Roy Henry Jr., who was killed by then Pleasantville police officer Aaron Hess, an innocent football player and a student at Pace University, violently shot and killed by a Pleasantville police officer who still remains free and has not been called to answer for shooting down an innocent student, an innocent kid, when he was only 20 years old. I have here with me Michael Sussman, the attorney for Mr. and Mrs. Dan Roy Henry, the parents of Dan Roy Henry Jr., who have been fighting for justice for their son for 2.5 years since he was shot down dead by then Officer Aaron Hess. I also would like to introduce here, and each person will be given the opportunity to speak to you. I would like to introduce Kurt Colucci, County Executive Candidate for the Conservative Party. I would like to introduce Louis Quiros, Westchester Coalition for Police Reform. I would like to introduce Darren Green, President of Blacks in Law Enforcement of America, Long Island Chapter, and of course Damon K. Jones, the New York representative of Blacks in Law Enforcement of America. Step up here, Damon. All of these people have been fighting with us for 2.5 years to bring the ex-police officer Aaron Hess to justice, to get justice for my clients, 7 innocent Pace University students, 6 of whom were football stars and players and best friends to Dan Roy Henry Jr. For 2.5 years, the Henry family has been fighting to get justice and get Aaron Hess indicted for killing their son. The grand jury did not indict him here in Westchester County because all of us know that Janet DeFiore, the district attorney, controls the grand jury. However, there is also a federal forum that the Henrys have been seeking to get justice in, and Michael Sussman can tell you more about them. Their attorney, who has been fighting with me side by side for 2.5 years for justice. Instead of settling these cases, the County of Westchester, the Town of Mount Pleasant, and the Village of Pleasantville, which was the employer of Aaron Hess, who shot into a car full of 3 innocent African-American football players. And yes, we do say that this was racism and motivated with false racial motivations, bias, and discrimination. Instead of trying to settle these cases and stepping up to the plate and admitting that they killed an innocent kid and then tasered and brutalized my clients who tried to go forward and save Dan Roy Henry's life, they now are attempting to defend an indefensible case in the only way they know how, by attacking the victims and delaying justice. They continue to use the taxpayers' money and the court as a way to make motion after motion to delay justice here. We are here to let the public know where your taxpayers' money is going now, to defend Officer Aaron Hess, who unjustifiably killed Dan Roy Henry Jr. at the age of 20 and shot Brandon Cox, the passenger in the car, and also shot at my client Desmond Hines, who is now just graduated with his master's degrees. These 7 children that I represent, all students, were unarmed in a car or coming toward the car to help save Dan Roy Henry Jr. And now they are being attacked, and these defense lawyers, who have no defense in this case, are trying to get their private, personal Facebook accounts, their emails, their Twitters, to delve into their private lives of these kids who were brave enough to step forward against police who had their guns out and were threatening them with deadly physical force. How can they explain how the manner in which they're defending this case will achieve the ends of justice? I ask you now to join us in the court, and each one of the people who have supported us here will have words to say to you also. I ask each and every one of you to join us at 3 p.m. in the courtroom of the judge, George Yantis, where the defense counsels who are defending the cop that killed Henry Jr., Aaron Hess, and defending the cops that tasered and brutalized my clients, will be attempting once again to fool the court. When will it end? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You want to speak, Michael?
Good afternoon. It's a very warm afternoon. Thank you for being here. I'm Michael Sussman. I'm the attorney for the Henrys. 2.5 years ago, when this case began, I indicated to the media and the public that just like that was not the first unjustified shooting, it wouldn't be the last. And just like I said, since this event, we've had many other events around the country, haven't we? This is an instance of a much broader, much deeper problem. It's an instance of dehumanization, which is manifest on the tape recordings that we've had access to, which show much more concern on the part of Aaron Hess and the police agencies for Aaron Hess's dog than they do for the young man who was shot to death and was lying in the street. Much more. Anyone who listens to the transcripts and the tapes is going to come to the unconscionable conclusion that there was literally more concern about the young man's dog, the police shooter's dog, than there was about the gentleman who was handcuffed on the street dying. Now, cases should not be tried in the public. I agree with that. But there are some things the public, as Ms. Zellman, should know. One is that the defendants would like to take approximately 100 more depositions and protract discovery through approximately June, July of next year, 2014, meaning this case would likely not be tried for 5 years after the event. That's a way of trying to immunize by time those who committed atrocious events. It's a way to protract the pain of the Henry family, which can't get justice in any reasonable time frame. Justice delayed is justice denied. We're fighting here today for an expedited process. Really, it's not that expedited, which would adhere to the deadline of August for the completion of fact discovery and not allow an attorney to take hundreds of depositions, which are repetitive, a forum for harassing behavior by counsel, and really nothing much more. Unilluminating. The story here was already told and is on our website. It was told by the police officers who reacted to the scene and who acted. The Rashomon-like character of 120 different witnesses from all different angles who saw different things, many of whom were intoxicated, quite honestly, adds very little. And it should not delay justice in this case. So we're here today. You'll hear the arguments about timing. You'll hear the arguments against sanctions. Frankly, in 35 years of practicing law, I've never seen an attorney treated the way Ms. Zellman has been treated in this case. Smirked at, made fun of, ridiculous conduct by the male attorneys on the other side, quite honestly. I've been at many of the depositions, and it's shocking. The only way that's going to end is for the court to sanction individuals who show disrespect, professional disrespect, repeatedly, interrupting her excellent questioning being thwarted by their efforts to interrupt, obstruct, distract. That's what's been going on. So we need to fight for justice, both in the broad way and the public way, letting you know what we can know. We can let you know, but we also need to fight for it in a very micro way, question by question in these deposition forums, allowing those who have questions to ask them, stopping the interruptions and the thwarting of the doing of justice. Thank you for a few moments, and you'll hear us at 3 o'clock.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now I would introduce again to you Kurt Colucci, County Executive Candidate for the Conservative Party, who has some words to say today in support of our cause here for justice.
Thank you guys for coming out today. As a graduate of Pace University and a former athlete up there, I find this tragedy near and dear to my heart because I've walked in those shoes without obviously the same type of tragedy unfolding. But for the life of a 20-year-old young man to be taken is unacceptable. And there's a lot of things we can do, but one thing we cannot allow is politics to get in the way of progress and community safety. Law enforcement budgets are at an all-time high, but resources and staff are at an all-time low. It is critical to make sure we send our law enforcement agents out on the streets for both the expected and the unexpected, but more importantly, the unimaginable situations that they're currently not prepared for. An ounce of prevention can go a long way. We need to make sure that we engage in better training of new officers. We need policy oversight to make sure that we not only meet, but far exceed national standards when it comes to law enforcement training. Westchester County is growing in diversity, and as a result, it is crucial to have law enforcers prepared for cultural, language, and situational barriers that can create other unintended but unexpected and devastating situations like this. County taxpayers cannot afford potential lawsuits that come from unexpected tragedies that are fully preventable. The families and friends of the victims cannot afford to pay through a lifetime of grieving and lost memories. It is our role to make sure that we have a safe and prepared Westchester.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to introduce Luis Quiros, Westchester Coalition for Police Reform.
Thank you for introducing me and thank you for being here. I am not a lawyer. I have my education in social work, community organizing, and I am here because I am a survivor of lawlessness by police officers. On Valentine's Day, I walk out of my building with my hood, and my Puerto Rican shirt. I get into my car, and within less than 2 minutes, a police officer comes up to me and tells me that I am suspicious. All the facts expose why all of us are here today. The more you know about these cases, the more you will find out that there is an agenda by police officers. And as I try to walk away from the incident and getting arrested, I am pushed back into a circle of 3 police officers till they eventually arrest me. This agenda has to be exposed. I rather go to the public. I trust the public more because this is where all the others, people view as others, live. We need more than training. We need a change of mindset. I've been doing this my whole life and in Westchester County for over 13, 14 years. It has ignited me to write books, to lecture on this, to teach this to my students. And again, this past weekend, we had a killing in New Rochelle. Another Puerto Rican, black. We're all the same. We are all others. This must not continue. The public must learn that patience is immoral. The system does not work, will never work under these conditions. I know this from the civil rights movements of the 50s and 60s, which I was a part of. I didn't read about it in history books. I read about it in Harlem. We are responsible for getting rid of patience. It will be your turn next. Again, I was just in front of my house, and the police officers, I was told to ID him. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, I'd like to introduce Darren Green, President of Blacks in Law Enforcement of America, Long Island, who's been staunchly supporting us for 2.5 years, and in all of our other fights for civil rights and justice for all the other victims I've been representing for 37 years. Darren.
Good afternoon. Again, my name is Darren Green, President of Blacks in Law Enforcement of America, the Long Island chapter. You know, as we come out in full support of this heinous crime that's committed, the term that comes to mind is the term that you see mostly written and have seen written on police cars: to protect and serve. And no longer is that motto something that is being upheld. To protect and serve has now turned into to murder and lie. Because it's easy when you have a mindset, an ideological mentality of profiling, whether you're black or brown, or because it's just the simple fact that I can justify it on paper. Because there was no other reason for police officers to do the things that they do without knowing that there is no justification except for the fact that I can put it on paper and know that my constituents that work with me are going to back me up. Because that blue wall of silence is for real. That's right. That blue wall of silence is something that is a rough road to break down. That's right. But I tell you now that when you think about creating policy and making change, it is not the change in the policies that mean, but we need more discipline from within these administrative departments. Because we can write a policy, but with policy with no discipline, there is no action. And clearly in these scenarios, in these cases, all right, there has been no discipline. We need to have reform, not only among that, but administratively. Because if the administrators are not going to hold their co-workers, their constituents responsible for their actions, they need to be let go as well. And those who are elected officials, we need to make sure that we come out to the polls when it is voting time to vote these individuals out of office. No longer is it to protect and serve, it has become murder and lie. And that is unacceptable. I'm 18 years in with Nassau County Sheriff's Department, and as a training instructor, I can tell you it is unjust, unfit, and me being in law enforcement myself, it is not a code that I honor or I stand by. Thank you.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It is now my pleasure to be here standing up to announce to you that Damon K. Jones, the New York representatives of Blacks in Law Enforcement of America, will speak next. Damon.
Good afternoon, everybody. Everybody within the law enforcement circle of Westchester County, when we heard the story, they didn't come out and say it, but they knew something was wrong with this story. Something wasn't right with this story that they was going along with. And we looked to the Westchester County DA's office to look for facts. And even when we asked for an independent special prosecutor, an independent investigation, like the Detective Ridley case, she turned her back on that and gave the investigation back to the department that killed this young man. Why do we have to get to the federal level to find the truth? Why can't truth start at the DA's office? Now that we found out that the report that was given by the lieutenant was totally a fraud. If any civilian gives a false report to a police officer, they can go to jail. They can be arrested. But what happens when law enforcement in Westchester County gives a false report even when they know the truth? Officer Beckley told the lieutenant that he shot at Hess. Officer Beckley told the lieutenant that he saw Hess as the threat, not the car. But that's not what they told. That's not what they reported. And it was allowed to stand up in the district attorney's office. They did not do any investigation. Maybe if they would have talked to Hess from their investigation, we wouldn't be here today. We would be here because it's a wrongful death, but we wouldn't have to find the truth in federal court. So many families in Westchester County of children of police brutality or innocent people that have been shot at or killed in Westchester only find truth at the federal level. They can never find truth in the DA's office. Why is that? Justice is supposed to be blind. But in Westchester, justice peeks under her blindfold and see if you're an immigrant, if you're poor, if you're black, before they make a decision here in Westchester County. Something has to change. And they have the nerve to allow her to run unopposed. This is a shame on Westchester County. This is a shame on the Democratic Party to allow this woman to run unopposed now that the truth of this case has come out. And just a few days ago, 17 months after the killing of Kenneth Chamberlain, police calling him the N-word on videotape. No charges pressed. We have another murder in New Rochelle. How many more murders will we have under the watch of Janet DeFiore before somebody says something? Before our politicians act? How much more money should the taxpayers pay in lawsuits and judgments and settlements? Mount Vernon has a police officer on the job that has cost the city $1 million and he's still working. What's going on here? It should come from the county exec. It should come from the county level. It should come from the local level. But these families are not getting any help. And they're not even improving training. They're not even improving training, and that is evidence of the shooting in New Rochelle. After the Kenneth Chamberlain shooting, they should have updated their training. There's only one police department that runs at a national level, at national standards in Westchester County, and that is Scarsdale Police. All the other ones, they don't meet national standards. So we have a problem. And I think it's up to the people today. And I think we should support the family of the Henry family and all the students and all the other victims of unjust police shootings and police brutality in Westchester County. Because until we stand up as a people, nothing will ever change, and we'll be standing here in front of federal court every year